Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome in to another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Fantasy Points and the Fantasy Points Media Group. D-Mendy here, joined. We got the full cast and crew and a special guest tonight. Marty Party back in the fold, fresh off the cocoa. Marty Party, how you feeling tonight, my man?
Yes, well, I thought I had plantar fasciitis according to last week's show, but I'm recovering from that. I'm almost fully recovered from COVID-19, so I was on the COVID-19 IL, but I'm bouncing back. Just outside of fatigue, we are good to go, and I'm super excited to talk baseball because it's about 10 degrees outside in Detroit. So I'm thinking of spring. I'm thinking of good weather.
Is COVID IL still a thing?
Yes.
I feel like that completely didn't exist last year.
I've seen people with the non-COVID IL illness go on to the COVID IL, so it still exists, but I think it's a lot looser. It's basically when they want somebody to have 2 days off.
Yep.
And they don't want to have to stay alive.
Exactly. We also got a little cheesecake in the house tonight, fresh off his family vacay. How are you feeling, little cheesecake?
Good. Little tired. You know, you go hard on the family vacays because you want the kids you want the memories to sort of seal in their craniums, those little flashpoints that you remember from when you went on family vacations. Like, oh, you remember how big Grandpa's backyard looked when we were 5? You want those flashpoints to be sealed into their memories. And so, you know, I was going extra hard. We did a lot of sledding. I stayed out in the cold for a lot longer than I wanted to because they wanted to, but it was a great time.
This is the dad's podcast. Just became that now. It sounded like a dad. And then, of course, we have Doc in the house tonight. Doc, I don't feel like there's been nothing really new in your world. Is there anything we should know?
Absolutely not. You know, we were talking before the show, what J you could use for the Army alphabet, and jaw. J is in jaw, for that's how much Art's jaw must be fatigued after all that talking.
Carrying your backstage stuff into the show. That's what you do. I like it. All right. We got a special guest joining the show tonight. We welcome in a man that I would call him the Big Dumper because of the awesome stickers he passed out during First Pitch Arizona. This man does baseball content for the Dynasty Guru and Peace Love and Baseball. He's a Mariners fan, an Eno Saris guy, and a Puggy Daddy. Hashtag Puggy Daddy. Ladies and gentlemen, is the king of the selfie. It is Sam, and I actually realized we never got your last name, but Sam FPV1 in the house tonight. What's up, Sam?
What's up, guys? I'm just super excited to talk baseball, man. We also had snow, and being up in the Northwest, now it's 40 degrees and raining, and I just want to think about summer days and grass and, you know, hot dogs and beer and all the good shit. So I'm ready to go.
Now, let me ask you, because you obviously live in Seattle.
Just outside.
So is it rainy there all the time like they always say it is?
So it's like a different kind of rain. Like when you go to other places and it rains, like the weather system gets all of the rain out. So you'll get a good rain when it rains. And in Seattle, it's like it'll rain for an hour kind of and be like, well, you know, we could rain again in another hour. We might wait and see. So it rains all the time. There was 2 years ago, we had 6 months where there were 5 days without rain.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's gray but the summers here are better than anything I've ever seen. So,
but the overcast isn't consistently throughout the year, right? You have like some sunshine in the summers.
Oh yeah, you get really good months usually from July through September.
Oh, okay.
That's the good time. So, and it's always green. You know, you get to see mountains and ocean, and it's pretty. Like it's beautiful. It just rains all the time.
All right. Well, we will have to make our trip one day to Seattle. Space Needle is on the agenda.
Oh, absolutely.
But I will say on the agenda tonight, Sam's joining us for a special episode of baseball, new faces in new places. We're looking at players with stock up and stock down as we basically have closed out free agency for all the major players and trades, unless more trades just all of a sudden pop up. And we can kind of, now that the dust has settled, look at going into this next season, who's had increased fantasy value and who has lost fantasy value with their new teams. And obviously, again, when there's so many trades and free agent signings that have happened, we're looking at the most impactful in terms of increased or decreased in terms of for your fantasy teams, what they're going to be able to put up for you guys here. So let's kick things off and let's go to Sam first. I want you to give us your first. We're going to start positive here because we're always a positive show. So let's start off with your first guy who I am a huge fan of. And I think everybody, if you're not in on him, you need to be. Go ahead and kick it off with your first guy, Sam.
I had two guys, but my first guy, I believe, is Jose Abreu. Is that who you were expecting me to say?
Mm-hmm.
So all Jose Abreu has done is consistently played 150, 140 games every year. He hits the ball so hard and so angrily. He doesn't care if you throw with your left or your right hand. He doesn't care where the park is. And he's going to a lineup where all he's got to do is just sit back and hit. He's only going to be playing first base, so we don't have to worry about really his defense. And he showed that he's more than adequate in his time with Chicago White Sox. And, we're always looking for, the next version of a player. We had this player. Who's the next guy that's going to be that guy? And I think he's the next Nelson Cruz. I think he's going to age beautifully in Houston. I think the 3-year contract is going to they'll end up re-signing him and he'll end up playing there. As a Mariners fan, it kills me that, they took one of their worst offensive positions on the team and put that guy there. I really think he, not that lineup needed to be extended, but there's no more hole at the first base batter for that. And all the projections that I've seen on him, I want to take the over on everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to steal your bases, but he is going to hit bombs in Houston. So I love him. I'm excited and I want him at his price. I might even reach for him around. So
he's one of the examples of a player who I think the public has caught up on in terms of what his value was, because a few months ago you were getting him after pick 100. And now over the last 2 weeks, according to NFBC ADP, he's now creeped inside the top 100 going around pick 97. So he's jumped up about 10 to 20 spots over the last couple months. And rightfully so. Jose Abreu has averaged 650 plate appearances per year in his each 162 game season. And he's never posted WRC plus worse than 114. He's going to be in a lineup with Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, and now World Series MVP Jeremy Pena.
Preach the word. Yes.
I mean, look at this. I mean, to not belay the point here, you did a great job outlining everything as well. Second in baseball with 863 RBIs since he joined the big leagues in 2014.
Yep.
And he's filling a position for the Astros. They were dead last in FWAR in the American League at minus 1.4 last season. And if you're concerned about the power outage with only 15 home runs, remember the high last year for the White Sox was 17 from Andrew Vaughn.
Yep.
And that was partly, they said, was because the hitting coach there was emphasizing contact over power. And go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say the Chicago White Sox were just a shit show last year, and it showed with every one of their players. And I don't blame him for jumping off. One of the things that they talked about when we were at FPAS was Freddie Freeman and his elite floor, that he always performs. And that's the vibe I get from Jose Abreu, that, he's the epitome of just that old guy that you want to draft, because he's absolutely going to anchor your team in 3 categories and potentially a 4th. So, RBIs, home runs, and average for the 3 that I would think. And, you get enough runs in on him, and he's a 4 category player. So I think he's just delicious to roster. I'm really excited for his prospects. Again, as a Mariners fan, I hope that all of his efforts are for nothing, but, I'm not going to shy away from drafting him in redraft at all.
And like you said, the 4 categories, again, those that are concerned about power, still 93rd percentile average exit velocity, 51.8% hard hit rate, and his expected slug was 486. So there is going to be power returning to that bat, and he's going to provide he had 16% strikeout rate last year. Goodness gracious. Let me ask you guys. We're not going to do this with every single player, but I think Jose Abreu, if you're sleeping on him, we need to emphasize here. Would you rather have Vinny Pasquantino or Jose Abreu?
I'd rather have Vinny.
Jose, but that's so close.
Because they go back to back.
That's a good one. I'd say in Dynasty, I want Vinny just because of the age, but in redraft, I want the floor at that point in the draft.
I think so too. I think that's the right take. Yeah.
Yeah, Jose Abreu for redraft this year. The other first baseman that goes around him, anywhere near him, honestly, because there's a huge gap in first baseman after Matt Olson. Matt Olson goes at pick 47. Why would you want Matt Olson at pick 47 if you can get Jose Abreu at pick 97?
I wouldn't. I'd want a third baseman or a second baseman there, or, because of the emphasis on hitting, you probably could still get a frontline starter at that point. So I think I'd be more focused there.
Yep. And then you got Nate Lowe that goes after there. So he's one of those guys later on you can get is just insane value. I don't see his ADP staying here once we get to March. He's going to be one of those guys that his ADP keeps going up. So if you're drafting now, you're getting a major bargain in Jose Abreu.
Agreed.
Let's go to the next player here. Let's go to you, Little Cheesecake, kicking off with your first player. And you're going with a guy here that really kind of just, I think, wowed everybody with how well he performed in the stretch that he did last season. So
you can talk about Matt Carpenter.
I'm doing them in the order you sent me them, Cheesecake.
I don't know.
You know that.
I forget which order I sent them to you. Who did I put in? Is that Carpenter?
Yes.
Matt Carpenter. I do love Matt Carpenter. And one of the reasons that I really love him coming into this season is he's basically going for nothing so far. His ADP is 520. He has a range high pick of only 405. Right now, he's looking at he might be the starting DH against right-handed pitching in San Diego. With the pop that he showed in New York, I think there's a good chance that max pick of 405 is going to be closer to his ADP, or maybe even above that come March, because that's a prime position for him. He had 15 home runs last season. You say, well, maybe that was a product of playing in New York. Apparently, with his swings, he would have hit 14 expected home runs in San Diego last year, so not losing a lot. His launch angle was ideal for power, over 20 degrees. His barrel rate over 13% last season, elite. I love the potential power that he gives you. Of course, you might get an injury again. He's been injured a lot. He got injured last season, but that's baked into the price. You're not going to ding him again for that injury concern, because it's already baked in there. If you really didn't think he was going to get injured with the power that he showed last season, I think that you would be taking him a lot higher. Now, is it possible he could play against lefties as well? I think so. Career 250 hitter against left-handed pitching. I think right now I wouldn't say, he's definitely going to be a full-time DH. I'd say strong side platoon in the DH would be a good place to project him right now. And if you get more than that, that's great. But at his price, that's a really good position.
A 305 batting average, 15 home runs, and 37 RBIs last year, slugged 727. If you look just a lot of the things across the board, walk rate stayed about where it's been, but a 22.7% strikeout rate. So he showed a really much a better eye at the plate. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he also worked with Matt Holliday, if I'm not mistaken. And he was kind of the first person to start doing that. I know right now Cody Bellinger is doing that. And it seemed like it really made some good results. And obviously the power definitely played well in Yankee Stadium, but he seems like he's a hitter that you should take a chance on. He's free. Yeah. So why not, right? Why not? If he's, especially, if there's injuries there, he might get forced into more playing time. So he's a good guy to take a shot on here. I like the call there, Cheesecake. Doc, you're wild and over there. I know why, but you could go ahead with your first guy here. Who?
Okay. Well, Art, you already hit the over because the word this week was pop. And you said it within 20 seconds. So a stress-free bet out of the way. I'm mad David didn't.
I didn't have the thing queued up ready yet.
First guy I'm going to talk about is from Art's favorite team, going to a new team, and it's Willson Contreras. When you look at NFBC drafts the last 2 weeks, an ADP of 93rd overall. In a 2-catcher league, I think it goes without saying. But when you look at some of his counting stats, his previous high for runs plus RBIs is 130, and Steamer projects him for 141 this year. And when we're talking about people in new, obviously with the free agency, you have to look at the lineup they're in. And he's going to be in a much better hitting lineup. He's going to have a lot of protection around him with Arenado, Goldschmidt, the plethora of prospects and young talent that the Cardinals have at the hitting position, and nobody to threaten him at catcher. So that's something where you really, really like going forward with that. He's been a lock for 20 home runs almost every year. And what's crazy is he hasn't even been as durable as you'd think. He's played in 113, 128, 105, and 117 games. And in all of those seasons, he hit 20-plus home runs. He's even given you a little bit of stolen bases. 4 last year. When you look at the metrics, they match up hard hit percentage in the 90th percentile, max EV in the 98th percentile, barrel percentage in the 73rd percentile. So I think he's in line for his best career year.
Yeah, I mean, in that Cardinals lineup, like that's going to be the real deal. You would expect with all the trade rumors over the last few years that's really probably weighed on him some. Now you can kind of play for the Cardinals, who have produced some really good hitting recently, and he's going to have a chance for some RBIs and runs like he hasn't had in Chicago the last couple of seasons. Definitely think he is definitely a riser. I can't see him doing worse than he did last year. And it's not saying that he did bad, but just the situation around him makes it for so much better in terms of counting stats, in terms of just his overall psyche being there. So I like the call there as well, Doc. Marty Party, your first player you want to kick things off with here. And I know I took one of your guys, but you still got 2 good contenders here. Who do you want to start with?
Got to start off with the newest Oakland Athletic, and that is Trevor May. So Trevor May, relief pitcher from your old Minnesota Twins, formerly with the New York Mets. He currently has an ADP of 676. So in other words, he is completely being undrafted in most leagues. Steamer now projects him as the closer for the Athletics for 2023, and they project him for 17 saves. So there's a few reasons why he will be the closer. Number one, he's by far the best pitcher in the A's bullpen. When you look it up and down, there's not a lot of talent, not only on the team, but especially in that bullpen. Last year with the Mets, he struggled constantly. He was injured. Actually, he started off the year with COVID, which backed up his he wasn't able to have a full spring training. And so when the season started, he piled up a bunch of injuries because the Mets wanted him to pitch right away. And because of that, he had the worst season of his career. He finished with a 5.04 ERA, and he even talked about potentially retiring. So he decided not to. He went back onto the market, and the A's scooped him up. So the number one reason why he's going to be their closer, he's their best pitcher out of the bullpen. But number two is he's actually the A's, they're going to want to use him as trade bait closer to the trade deadline. So they have every incentive to put him into that closing role, get him as many saves as possible so they can do what they always do, and that's just trade away their guys. So you look at his actual stats in 2020, he had a 39.6 strikeout rate with a 3.42 xERA. In 2021, he had a 31.2 strikeout percentage with a 2.9 ERA. So before last year, he was doing really, really well. I love where he's at. By the time March comes around, his ADP is going to be through the roof. So if you are doing your drafts, this is the time now to get your Trevor May pieces.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. I'm trying to figure out why last year was so bad. And you look at the pitch mix. The pitch mix is pretty much the same across the board. He threw a split finger last year, which he didn't throw before. But everything else in terms of the percent usage and the miles per hour all lines up to what he did in 2020 and 2021. Just a lot less whiffs on his fastball, and his slider got a lot less whiffs. And I don't know if it's just, the spin rates were right around where they were too, down a little bit. Was it
he's
bad
talked
luck?
about it on the Chris Rose rotation. He's one of the main contributors there. Every 6 weeks he sits down and he talks about the season and how he's doing. And it's really because the Mets pushed him to get to be their 8th inning guy right away when he wasn't ready. So the first thing, he had forearm strain. He comes back, shoulder injury. And so every single time he was put in, he was just trying to catch up. And he lost a little bit of velocity because of that. And then, mentally, it just started to really weigh on him. So that was the stuff's still there. The next year, he's going to have he has this full off season to get ready. So, he's going to be the same guy that we saw in 2020, 2021. He's only 32 years old. He's not 40 years old. So it's not like he's going to completely drop off the face of the earth. So injuries is what kept him from a good season last year.
Yeah, an ADP of 502.
Yeah, he's moving up. But I got a couple of questions about him. I'm curious. I totally agree with the way that the Mets handle their pitchers and how they're at least have been super problematic about it for the last 10 years. So I didn't realize that backstory about May and his problems with the Mets, but he never seems to put together a real good season. I've never seen him truly trusted in the ninth inning. And I totally agree that he is the best closer for the Oakland Athletics. I have a gentleman's bet with Will Garofalo that the A's win under 50 games this year. I think that if he gets saves, he might get 10, 8. And if you trade him, he's not going to be traded to a contender that's going to need a closer more than likely. He's going to go somewhere to be a bullpen arm, somebody that comes in that 6th, 7th inning. I'm interested in May because you give a compelling argument about him, but I'm completely off of him. I would much rather him be on somebody else's roster. So
let me ask you this: what happens if you have him for the first? And here's what Oakland does best: they always win more games than they should. So for whatever reason, that happens every year. They're no matter how bad that roster is, they somehow hover around 500 ball for way too long. But let's say 2, 3, 4 months of Trevor May as their primary closer, it gets you to that 13, 14 saves. And then you drop him, you pick up his handcuff after they trade him.
Okay, so with the scarcity of saves, I can buy into that. I'm real nervous about investing any kind of real draft capital. And you make the point that he doesn't cost draft capital right now. But
if he moves up, if he's past anybody who has a legitimate shot to stay on a good team throughout the entire year. But as of right now, what is he said? He's moved up to 500 and something.
He's 502 over the last 2 weeks.
Still good. Yeah, that's fine.
That's 38 and a 15 teamer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So price factors in, but yeah, I mean, there's the chance there for 10 saves. Maybe then he gets traded, like Sam says, to a contender, and he becomes an 8th inning guy again.
I'm definitely not fully backing him as like your first or second, or preferably not even your third save choice. But if we zoomed out 2 months ago, there was no way anyone was going to draft him. So if we're following the rules of this exercise, no, he has to have the highest boost.
Okay, I'll at least admit that I need saves in that draft and hold we're doing. So he's one of the people that I will be looking at for that roster, but
you guys will be fighting for him.
The rules for debating Marty are that you don't back down, that you just make him drop it at some point.
Marty, knock it off. I win this debate.
There you go.
Is that the way that goes?
Doc's
I liked it. I appreciated the knowledge. So,
Doc's living through you because he likes to debate Marty. So when anybody else does it, he's
I agree with him. No, it's only his 2-star pitchers I disagree with. Bring those back.
One out of every 40 and 50 he disagrees with.
All right, let's go to my first guy here. We're not here all night. And the guy I'm going to lead off with here is someone that Marty also liked too. So I'm going to we're going to share the credit for this one. Zach Eflin of the Tampa Bay Rays. They signed him to a 3-year, $40 million contract, which, fun fact, I don't know if you guys knew, that's the richest contract ever given in Tampa Bay Ray history. 3 year
to a free agent.
To a free agent, yes. Thank you.
Okay.
That's like where you have to read the small print.
Yeah.
In the contract. But yeah, the richest to a free agent in franchise history. Eflin spent last season between the rotation and the bullpen for the Phillies, and he started 13 games and made 7 appearances out of the bullpen. All in all, 4.04 ERA, 112 WHIP, and 65 strikeouts, 1 save in 75.2 innings. Now, what's interesting is I was reading an article on MLB.com, and the Rays before the offseason actually tried to acquire Eflin twice before this, according to their president of baseball operations, Eric Neander. And Eric Neander came out and said, "We feel for Zach, the best is very much right in front of him. We're confident that that's something that you will see over here over the next 3 years with us." And we know what the Rays have been doing with pitching. And the fact that they've been that aggressive to try to get him, they must be seeing something that they are really intrigued by. Eflin 6'6", averaged fewer than 2 walks per 9, so he has good command, limits hard contact, 31.1% hard hit percentage, an average exit velocity of 85.3 miles per hour, has a 6-pitch mix. I think Tampa's going to work with him. He's right now not too expensive. I have to double check what his price is right now. I believe it is $294. So he's going around Bailey Ober. He's going around Ranger Suarez. He's going around Ross Stripling. So, you're getting him in that range. And I think he has as much upside here as any of those guys. So I'm very much intrigued with Zach Eflin. And let's say worst case scenario, the Rays treat him like a Ryan Yarbrough, where they're like, hey, we only want you through maybe to throw 4 innings. Great. He's going to be following an opener, and he'll get you a lot of wins that way. If that's the case, and he doesn't go for, 6 or 7 innings, that's fantastic. Then they'll put him like that, and he'll get you those wins. So I think Zach Eflin here, just inside the top 300. I can't see him being in a worse situation than last year, again, in the way of being I think he takes a step forward here with the Rays. He doesn't take a step back. And that's a very serviceable pitcher just inside the top 300.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is that with the rest of the Rays starting rotation, they're going to be worried about innings, whether it's Glasnow, McClanahan, Rasmussen. Eflin's the only one they're not going to really worry about. They're going to let him roll out. They're going to let him go 6. They're going to maybe let him go 7 innings every single time. And so that's kind of the only guy you kind of take a deep breath, and they're going to plug and play him at each time.
Yep. Zach Eflin, definitely, we're all loving that value, and we'll see if his ADP changes. But for now, go grab him. Let's go to our round 2. Let's talk about the other player we like and think that they're rising up here in terms of what they're going to be doing this season compared to last year. And Sam, we're going to go to your other guy here who used to be a Seattle Mariner favorite and now pitched for your arch nemesis. So go ahead and tell us about him.
Yeah, I picked 2 Astros. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. I'm real excited about Rafael Montero. I know that Pressly has got a secure role as a closer, and Houston is an organization that tends to run with their closers versus playing closer by committee, but they committed a lot of money to him. And when it comes to closers, I like to follow the money. Like Estevez in Los Angeles, that he's probably going to close for the Angels because they offered him real money out of anybody that's in that bullpen, or at least he'll get the first shot. I think Montero is the next guy up for Houston. And I think in holds and saves leagues, he's going to be a huge accumulator. In saves only leagues, I think he's more of strikeouts and ratio stabilizers. He tends to limit hard contact. He's a ground ball pitcher. He doesn't strike out as many batters as Pressly. I think Pressly is above 12K per 9, and you're looking at just under 10 for Montero. But he really has that it when it comes to being a closer. He doesn't seem to have any problem pitching in whatever inning to whoever he's throwing to. And I really feel good about him having the next being the next man up there. And if not this year, I play a lot of Dynasty. I would say he's somebody that I would want for a bullpen in Dynasty, because I think there's a chance that he's going to end up being their closer after Pressly leaves. So
now, what do you say to the people like D. Mendy who are big fans of Brian Abreu and think that Brian Abreu should have the shot to be the closer if something happens to Pressly?
So Houston's got a lot of really fun arms. They're a great organization, and they seem to develop good talent. And you can never have enough pitching. For every Forrest Whitley and Josh James that you have from that organization, you get a lot of Christian Javier's and other people. And so I like Abreu. I think his shit is just nasty. But I don't think Houston is an organization that wants to give the closer to a young arm. I think there's somebody where Abreu for the next 3 years will be a 6th, 7th, 8th man, 8th inning fireman. And they're going to want to give that ball to somebody who's got more experience. They're a World Series team. And so, if they were Oakland, or they were Texas, or they were Anaheim. I could see them wanting to give some young kid the shot. But, you look at the Mariners. Why isn't Andres Munoz closing for them? He's got way filthier stuff than Seawald. Seawald's just got it upstairs. He's got some age and he doesn't get as excited, I think. And I'm not trying to shame any player for the way that they play, but I think that there's something to that age. So the very long answer to that is I think Abreu's fun, but you're talking 3 or 4 years when they want to offer real money to a real closer. He might graduate into that role.
Now, the other thing I will say to rebuttal that is, do you think that teams like the Mariners, teams like the Astros, they have the better reliever and they have the more experienced reliever? Do you think it could come where if the main guy goes down that they split saves to where, like, if Abreu is their best reliever, which he arguably was last year, if you look at his numbers, like his numbers last year, 194 ERA, 88 strikeouts and 60.1 innings. And he actually also had a 336 BABIP to go along with that 194 ERA. 13K per nine. So, like,
totally
is it going to be where
agree.
if the 3, 4, and 5 come up, they put him in for the save? Or if, like, the 3, 4, and 5 come up in the 8th, they put him in, and then they would put Montero in for the 9th, or like vice versa? Because I feel like more teams are starting to put their best reliever in when their team's best players are up.
Yes, I think that is becoming more common. But like I said at the beginning, I think that Houston is an organization that tends to like to have defined roles in their bullpen. They seem to not be as cutesy as the Mariners tend to share things more. Tampa Bay, there's other organizations that do that. I don't see Houston doing that yet. That Click leaving and have them having some difference in the front office may change some things about how they do things. But if Dusty Baker's chewing on toothpicks, they have a guy. I guarantee Dusty Baker's not going to change the way that he handles that bullpen. And so, no, I don't think so. But it wouldn't. Abreu is nasty. Like, I absolutely agree. I love him as a pitcher. He's so fun to watch. And if he got that opportunity above Montero, I wouldn't be upset because he's really good, but I think that it's Montero's. And Abreu didn't sign this offseason. Montero re-signed with him, so I couldn't pick him.
All right, fair enough. Both of them have pretty decent ADPs right now. Montero's going 360, and you're getting Brian Abreu at pick. I believe he was like in the 600s before. He's still in the 659.
Yeah,
I just want to make a Seattle reference because I know Sam will appreciate it. The Seahawks paid Matt Flynn in an offseason, 3 year, $21 million. Didn't start him again.
So you're comparing Matt Flynn and Rafael Montero?
No, he said they paid someone this offseason. They're going to roll with him. That's
they did try to get Matt Flynn. Just Russell Wilson won the job. So I mean, I guess
Matt Flynn, by all accounts, was supposed to start. I watched it happen for 10 years. I have no idea how Russell Wilson did it that long. What is happening in Denver is what I expected every year.
And you guys got rid of him at the right time and got an amazing boatload of picks. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was all right.
LC, let's go to your next player here, your other riser, and somebody that I think there might be some pushback here. I think I have some pushback. I'm interested to hear the other guys as well. So go ahead.
So I'm going to admit that I did not read all the rules, and mine are all risers. I like all my guys, the ones that I put. So,
interesting.
So I didn't read all the rules, and that's on me.
Bad, LC.
Bad on me. But I'm a positive guy to begin with, and I'm positive about Brandon Drury. I think Brandon Drury signing with the Angels is good for him, and it's good for the Angels. The Angels have done a lot of work on trying to boost their offense. Picking up, Hunter Renfroe, picking up Drury this offseason, and hopefully with some health from Rendon, that could lead to a lot more production from that offense. What you get with Drury, you'll get very good zone contact. Always has had a very good zone contact his entire time in the league, and he has a good power swing. And I thought that I remember how he came on my radar was he was the one who kept Vlad down when he was supposed to come up as like a rookie. Brandon Drury was the guy the Blue Jays started in his stead. And I kind of thought that was going to be the end of his fantasy relevancy, but he's really made a nice mark here. And his season last season, I don't think it was a fluke. that power was inflated by Cincinnati. But the Angels Stadium is not a bad place to hit. He would have hit 23 home runs there last year instead of 28. I do like the lineup around him if everyone stays healthy. So I think where he's going, around pick 190 ADP with a range of 144 to 228, and especially with his positional versatility of first, second, and third, that's a pretty good value.
Does anybody want to push back on that, or that you guys are all agree with it?
I disagree.
Go ahead. I don't want to be the only one bashing.
He had a home in Cincinnati, Great American Small Park. I think I brought him up as my superlative as like the biggest fraud for next year. So Great American Small Park last year, career high 138 games. Before that, hadn't played 120 since 2019. So I guess one full season from there. I think someone that just hasn't looked the part. He had 2 stolen bases last year, which matched what he had in his career leading up to that. 28 home runs was a far career high. Just, I don't see it, Elsie. I'm sorry.
He had seasons of 15, 16 home runs when he was younger, and his average, his max exit velocity has always been above average, well above average. So he has that power stroke, and with his contact rate, with his well above average, regularly above average zone contact rate, I think that shows that he's a guy who makes contact and hits the ball hard. I think the power was just a matter of coming, and yeah, it was a little bit inflated by Cincinnati, but I think that he doesn't have to hit 28 for it to be worth that, especially with the versatility that he gives you.
You got me on the versatility part.
Yeah. Versatility is good. He hit 220 against righties when he got to the Padres. He was hitting 261 against righties with the Reds, and was hitting 280 versus lefties and 309. So basically, batting average versus both-handeds went down. 220 versus righties is not good. He also post All-Star break with the Padres hit 238 after pre-All-Star break with the Reds hitting 278. I'm just worried that once he got out of one of the best ballparks to play, that it was a little bit of a mirage, and you're still having to spend a pick inside the top 200 for him. I just still think it's a little bit too rich for me.
So I got a question. Would you rather take him or Luis Arias of Minnesota?
Arias.
Okay, because Arias going after him in the NFBC. Would you rather have Drury, or would you rather have Josh Young of Texas?
Josh Young's upside for me.
Josh Young.
Yeah. Would you rather have Bryson?
Like fucking freaky.
Would you rather have Bryson Stott or Drury?
Bryson Stott.
I probably Bryson Stott with that lineup.
You're on some sort of a weird drug binge right now, Doc, with that last one. Bryson Stott over Brandon.
I agree.
Drury?
I agree with
better
them.
lineup,
What?
better park, has
talking
flexibility. There's no way.
Done.
It's anti-Drury. Where are you at?
What?
It's like
Drury,
we avoid. It's like when you do the
season,
DARE program in
15
school, you avoid
homers.
drugs. We avoid Brandon Drury here.
Oh, you guys are crazy. This guy, he has a. The only reason I would be skeptical is because the Angels signed him and they don't do anything right.
That doesn't help.
Oh,
that doesn't help.
Retracting.
But if another team had signed him and it was the same ballpark with the same circumstances, I think it's a pretty good circumstance for him. But the Angels, everything seems to blow up in their face.
So you're gonna do this? Or are you?
No, I'm not backing out. I like it. I said that's the only reason I
fallers. You didn't do any fallers. He could be a faller.
He's not my faller. I'm not backing off. I like this.
Marty Party, you're the only one that hasn't said anything.
Tears coming down his eyes.
I just like somebody else getting debated. It's nice just to sit back and watch it. You know.
It is pretty fun. All right, Doc. We'll move things along here. Go to your next player here. And I'm a fan of this one as well. I think he's going to a team that is going to be sneaky, and it's going to be one of those that you have him, you plug him in your lap, he's going to produce a lot next season.
So I'll see if I get any pushback on Josh Bell. He's only 30 years old. Somebody that I think I was surprised he was that young. We'll talk about his durability to begin with. He's played in at least 88% of games in all 6 full seasons in the MLB. So that's what you really love, especially as we're kind of in a load management era for baseball. He had a great first half last year, a 301, 384, 493 triple slash with the Nationals. But really surprising that him and Soto struggled when going to the Padres. He slashed 192, 316, 271 slugging in 52 games with the Padres. But underlying metrics were good. 12.5 walk percentage, 15.8 K percentage. He's going to give you some power too. Now, you look at the 2019 year when we had the happy fun balls, everybody calls it. He had 37 homers. Maybe he will never have that ceiling again, but he had 27 homers in 2021. And this is a guy that has always played for bad teams. He's played for Pittsburgh. He's played for the Nationals, and he played half a season for the Padres. And now he's settling in with a Cleveland lineup that David mentioned could be sneaky good.
Really
one
good.
Of the best hitters in Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, David's breakout Oscar Gonzalez. So I think at 184, that's a steal, especially if you wait on first.
Oh my gosh!
I agree.
Josh
Corner
Bell.
infield for sure.
Josh Bell stunk when he got to San Diego, and then you were bringing up that point about Brandon Drury about 38 seconds ago.
Josh Bell's so much better than Brandon Drury.
Every day.
Josh Bell also has like months where he hits like 8 singles and no extra base hits.
Oh, let's
So,
make this interesting. Hold on.
So you're telling me that the multi-positional Brandon Drury is below the can't hit his way out of a wet paper bag some months, Josh Bell. That's what you're telling me.
So wait, aren't they going around the same ADP right now? What's Drury's ADP?
It's pretty close, yeah.
What's Drury's ADP?
I had it at 190, but it might be going from a different range.
Josh Bell's 184. That's so crazy.
I'm looking at the last 2 weeks.
Drury.
The last 2 weeks
within 20 picks.
Yeah, Josh Bell's 185, and Drury is he's down to 214. He is dropping like a lead balloon. Does the public not show you, Art, the fact that
no, here's the deal. Josh Bell has been charming you fools for the past 3 seasons. and you guys look into his dreamy eyes and the great gifts of him pounding his chest, and you believe in him.
Yes.
Yeah. And what he does is he gives you like a month where you're like, look, he was worth it. And then nothing comes after that. You just get fooled by Josh Bell. It's what's going to happen again.
Josh Bell will be way more valuable at the end of the year than Drury.
Are we making a bet on the plot?
Auction calculator, Razzball player rater, fan tracks. What do you want to do?
Nuts.
All right, let's make
Twitter
a bet.
votes.
Marty, are you on Team Josh Bell or Team Brandon Drury?
Definitely Josh Bell for me.
He said definitely, not even a hesitation.
Even just being on the Guardians, and which is a contact-heavy team, and they're also focused of getting on base. I mean, they're just going to give him the opportunity for as many counting stats as possible because he's going to be hitting 4th or maybe 5th in that lineup.
And that lineup is so underrated, and it is so deep. You didn't even mention Ahmad Rosario or Andres Jimenez or Zanino. Like, that lineup is scary for as little as they're spending on it. They are really hot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I like Cleveland. I think they're going to be good this next
year.
Really
for Owen Miller, which he might be as good as.
He's not on the team anymore. Owen Miller's gone.
Yeah.
Jay is in. Jesus, Art lost this debate.
No. Josh Bell.
Jay is in Josh Bell.
Like 2 months of
Jay
fantasy
is in
relevance.
Josh Bell is better than Brandon Drury.
Jay is in Drury if you're spelling it wrong.
Man, all them washed up rappers want to do this well. Rock the bells. Josh Bell, baby.
All right. Yeah, Josh Bell is the winner of this debate. Elsie, I'm sorry. We won't be too mean to you after
you guys aren't allowed to judge this debate. You guys are not qualified.
Don't even play the season. He just lost.
We probably won't beat up on you too much in the season when Drury's DFA'd. It's okay.
DFA'd. Now, I want to take that bet, David.
All right, let's go to Marty's next player. And this one was I like this one because he was kind of a surprise one. I didn't expect he'd be on this list. So I'm interested to hear your reasoning for him.
Yeah, and before I hop in, I want to ask, what are you guys using for ADP? Because when I did it, because Trevor May still at 6'11".
NFBC over the last 2 weeks, so since December.
Oh, just the last 2 weeks. Okay, I was looking them up. All right, cool.
Oh, I just went to the general queue.
General queue. So let me see here. So yeah, Wil Myers, that's who I'm starting off with. So ADP of 616. He's still only 32 years old, first base and outfield eligible. He's now on the Cincinnati Reds. So he's going to be playing in the Great American Small Park. We've already talked about how great of a hitting environment that is. He is now an unquestioned starter, and he's projected to hit 6th in the lineup. And after the All-Star game, because he battled, as Myers often does, he battled injuries last year. But when he did come back and over the 152 plate appearances, his last at bat, he had 6 home runs. He got you a stolen base, and he slashed 285, 349, 482. For all of those reasons that he's basically free, he does have the first base and outfield eligibility. He's an unquestioned starter until he gets hurt, and such a great hitting environment. For like your 5th outfielder in a 5 outfielder league, I mean, I really like where he's going right now.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, he's free and he's in Cincinnati. No, I think it's a good pick because you can't hate on somebody when they're free. Because if they don't pay off.
hates on Trevor May. He's in the 600s. What do you want?
I'm a hater. I'm a hater. Sorry.
I didn't hate on it.
Hey, Wil Myers is this year's Brendan Drury.
Hey, I'm staying out of the Brendan Drury conversation. That one's, I mean, that's murky. Murky at best.
Goodness.
No, Wil Myers is going to hit really well in Cincinnati. That ballpark just makes everybody look good.
Yep.
He's a great player.
Cutting your mic off. One more of those comments, Sam. Cutting your mic off.
LC is getting buried tonight. But it's okay. It's all good. The next player I'll talk about, Sean Manaea. He's one of my guys this year. 2-year, $25 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. Him just going to the San Francisco Giants alone kind of makes you raise an eyebrow. 885 career innings, and he has a 4.07 career ERA, a 4.06 FIP. So those are his career numbers. Last year, very far from it. And you could see just for the numbers, a 4.96 ERA and a 4.53 FIP. Nowhere near what we expected, but he did have a 390 SIERA and a 396 xFIP, those were closer to his career numbers. Where he really struggled was he was having some fly ball problems, a 13.1 career home run to fly ball rate. Last year, it was 14.9%. He is going to San Francisco, which is the third, I'll say in terms of third worst as a good thing for him, the third worst park for home runs. So you can expect that hopefully that can shift back in his favor. And you look at just some of the bad luck that happened to him last year. He throws a sinker and a changeup as his 2 primary pitches 60% of the time with his sinker. And he had really bad luck. He ranked in the 25th percentile in terms of basically the amount of home run to fly balls for his sinker usage that he had. Pitchers that throw as much sinkers as he does usually don't give up that many home runs. But why I'm most excited for Sean Manaea is the guy we call Spider-Man on this show, Logan Webb. He adopted the seam shift and wake approach to leverage his changeup and his sinker. Those are the 2 pitches that work really well with the seam shift and wake. Sean Manaea, I think, is going to be next. He is going to learn because the Giants are going to teach him how to use it. And basically what seam shift and wake is basically, long story short, the simple way to explain it, the ball looks the same coming out in terms of arm angle, spin, velocity, but it goes in 2 separate directions. And that's where I think he's going to adapt that approach with the Giants like they did with Logan Webb. And I think he is a steal. He is actually had his ADP jump up about 30 picks over the last month, but he's still going just inside the top 400. So he's still pretty much almost free. I think he's worth the gamble.
I already bashed you on a previous show for him.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So we can move on. All right. Let's go to our players. We are out on players that are falling. Cheesecake will have some more risers for us. But Sam, go ahead and give us your first faller.
Well, I don't know what order I gave it to you in, but my first faller that I'm going to talk about is Andrew Benintendi, who signed with the White Sox. I know outfield is shallow, and I know that he is going to potentially a better team. There's going to be opportunity for him to play pretty regularly. But my problem is the park isn't suited for him. It plays to what he already does, and that's hit the ball. It doesn't play to left-handed power. It actually takes away power from left-handers, and that's where we need to see Benintendi really take a move forward to want to invest more draft capital. Power is far more scarce than it's been, and if I have an outfielder, even as a third or a fourth outfielder, I want them to be able to hit the ball pretty well. So I also... he's somebody for me that looks better on the field as a real baseball player versus on a roster of a fantasy baseball team. He's just one of those players that I don't think we've ever really seen consistent production from where he's at. So this is more of a gut thing. When you look at Andrew Benintendi, he looks like a perfectly fine player. But, before him, we've got players like Riley Green, Lars Nootbaar. I would much rather draft them around before I have to go after a player like Benintendi. Again, Benintendi's falling in this player who will not be named again on this podcast. But players during him are Young or Cabrera, the pitcher out of Miami, Tristan Casas, CJ Abrams. I'd much rather draft them than Andrew Benintendi. And if I need outfielders afterwards, I want to go after like a Gavin Lux or a Gordon or a Grisham or, one of my favorite sleepers this year, Jake Fraley. Those are all players that I'd much rather have and roster in an outfield. So I'm ready for the hate for anybody that loves Andrew Benintendi. I can take it.
I mean, I can speak for me unless they say something differently. I don't hate him, but like where he's going, I don't know if I have a strong conviction to draft him for the reasons you're saying. Like, there's so many other players in that range that like Luis Arias intrigues me. If I wanted to grab Aaron Ashby again and ride that train again, he's there. CJ Abrams, Bryson Stott, Tristan Casas, like there are some really interesting players that go in this range, and he's not the player that like sticks out to me here. He's not free like we've talked about with some of these players, and he's only really had basically a year and a half, 2-year stretch where he actually was anything decent in his career, and he's been in the big leagues for I think it's been like 5 or 6 years now or something like that. So I'm not overly pro Benintendi at all, so I can't argue with you.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say is that with the upheaval that's going on with Chicago, if they do have some pretty consistent moments in their management and they're able to really put together a team, you never know what could happen to a player like that in the right moment at the right place. But I just won't bet on it, and it won't happen on one of my rosters next year. So
fair enough. I can get behind that. Let's move then to Little Cheesecake. Let's go to your next player that you want to bring up for the show tonight.
Yeah, I want to talk about Mitch Haniger. I think what Sam said about getting power from your third and fourth outfielders, Haniger for me is a perfect example of the type of hitter you should be going after as your third or fourth outfielder. I don't really see his ADP skyrocketing. I think his signing was pretty much priced in to his price already, and he's going at a really nice price. I don't know what you have. I have him in his the last 15 draft champions. He's going about pick 180, and I think that's you have him at 175.
Yeah.
So we're right about the same spot. I think that's a great price for him. Now he's also someone who has a fantastic launch angle, has the good max EV. He barrels the ball a lot. He has above 10% barrel rate for every year since 2018. Not going to give you a great batting average, but his batting average is fine. It's been about 250 the last couple seasons, with the potential for some very good power and hitting at a good spot in the San Francisco lineup. At that position, I think you're going to get good production as a third or fourth outfielder.
Absolutely.
Would you guys rather have Brandon Nimmo or Mitch Haniger?
Haniger.
Yeah.
Haniger proved that he can hit at a pitcher's park. He already showed that he can play in fantasy at T-Mobile now. And so, I have no concerns for him going to the Giants.
No, just the injuries. I mean, last year he had the ankle problem that kept him out 3 months.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of weird if he stays healthy, I mean, what was that 2021 where he had 38 home runs and he was just a beast? You know?
Yeah,
So-
he was so great.
Mitch Haniger or Cody Bellinger?
Haniger.
Cody Bellinger goes right after him. Mitch
Haniger.
Haniger or Oscar Gonzalez?
Haniger.
Haniger.
You give me my guy Oscar Gonzo there, but I agree with the other ones you guys said. I think people always look at the injuries, but he's still a very good player. I like the call, LC. It's a good value for somebody that can give you that type of return. Doc, your first player, and you know what, we're gonna combine you and Marty here because you both put the same player, and I'm gonna put that on Doc because he didn't see you already claimed him, Marty. But you both are hating on Dansby Swanson. You both think that he's due for a lot of regression, that he's a faller. So why don't
that's not what I said.
You come in and you go ahead and you tee off, and then Marty's gonna go in and clean up.
All right, perfect. I'll see if there's anything that Marty can say that I haven't. So 84th going in the NFBC last 2 weeks. He's downgrading his lineup about as bad as you can be, from the Atlanta Braves to the Chicago Cubs. Dansby Swanson last year had 195 runs plus RBIs. His previous career high was 166, and Steamer projects him for 154. He's coming off a season where he had the lowest walk percentage of his career at 7%. And the highest K rate for a full season at 26.1%. He had a 348 BABIP last year. I see that regressing. His first 3 seasons, I think that this is an interesting note. He had 1,229 plate appearances, and he had 20 intentional walks. He hit 302 his first year. His last 3 seasons, he's had 1,613 plate appearances and 4 intentional walks. Now, obviously, some of that is circumstantial, whether you want to hit around the pitcher or double play scenario. But I also feel like part of it is just pitchers fearing him, that maybe there was more fear of him being the number 1 overall pick, him hitting 302 that first year, instead of the last 3 seasons, what we've seen, where if you're going to let someone beat him, it's going to be him. He's been fairly durable, 60, 160, and 162. So he's missed 2 games the last 3 seasons. You're hoping for that again. And then he went 18 for 25 on stolen base last year. Like, I know the rules are going to favor the runner more, where it's larger bases, 2 pickoff attempts. But is it going to improve his 72% on base pass? And 18 was a career high for him. I don't think the Cubs paid him $175 million to steal a lot his first season. So I think everything went right for him. Good job he got paid. But I will have 0 shares, and I'm beating that drum hard.
LC Jason Hayward part 2. That would be awful.
We're not going to speak the name of Jason Hayward in relation. That is not going to happen. Okay. I actually thought these 2 fools were talking about Eric Swanson, picked up by the Blue Jays in the Teoscar Hernandez trade. They could not be talking about Dansby Swanson, the biggest.
You didn't even hear about from Marty yet. You didn't even hear Marty yet.
All right.
By following the rules of the exercise, no one can argue that Swanson has not taken a step back from the situation that he's in. He went from the Braves with all of that protection to now he has Nico Horner hitting in front of him, and then Ian Happ. Ian Happ's actually pretty good. That's a separate conversation. I actually like Ian Happ, but it's just not going to work out as well for him there. The Atlanta's not the best place to hit, but the Wrigley Field's even worse. First couple months of the season, it's going to be absolutely freezing, up there. So that's going to, the ball's not going to travel as well. So following the rules of this exercise, Dansby Swanson is definitely taking a step back. Plus, he's coming off a career year. He's not doing that again.
So we'll go around the horn here really, really quick because we got to move on. Dansby Swanson over the last 2 weeks is going at pick 82.8. So you say 83. Are you spending that draft capital for Dansby Swanson this year? Keep in mind the shortstops that go around him. O'Neal Cruz goes right before him, and then right after him is Xander Bogaerts. So if you need a shortstop, is that where you're going to settle? Start with Sam.
Yeah, Xander Bogaerts, Willie Adames. I mean, there's a bunch of people after him that I would much rather have than Dansby Swanson.
LC?
I like Bogaerts this year a lot. I've always been a big fan of him. I think Dansby, the Cubs were one of the best steals teams in the league last year. So he might keep that speed. He looks to be a better 5-tool threat I'd
it
still
a
go
problem
Vander
that
over him.
is it a problem that Nico Horner, who's going to be leading off, he's going to be their steal guy? So if logic has that he's always in front of Dansby Swanson, will Swanson be stealing as much if there's already someone doing that for him, like in front of him? I don't know how that usually plays out.
Yeah, I don't either. I think Dansby was not hitting. I think he was hitting like third or fourth last year in Atlanta, wasn't he? I don't.
Yeah, or fifth.
I can
Yeah.
check.
So he got those steals, not hitting at the exact top of the lineup where he had been hitting. Wait. No. Now that I think about it, when Albies went down, he moved up to the top of the lineup, didn't he?
So
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year, in terms of splits,
Yeah.
and the batting first, he had 79 plate appearances.
Yeah.
Batting second, 457 plate appearances.
Yeah.
Pretty much the rest were either 7th, 8th, or 9th. So he was first,
hitting
second, 7th, 8th, or 9th, pretty much all but 5 games. So
Yeah.
he was pretty much second all year.
I mean, that's probably. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think that's probably about. He's going to hit second or third for the Cubs. I think.
The money says he is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, David, actually, I like where Swanson's going. I'm actually fine with that. I see him in Bogarts. I kind of, I could see going with either one of them. But I like me some Cruz too, especially if there's an overall component. I'm going to take that gamble.
And going right after him, if you are waiting on shortstop, Bogarts, there's Adames,
Wander Franco,
Tim Anderson, Wander Franco. There's also Jeremy Pena. If you think what we saw last year was a glimpse of what's to come. So there is so many good shortstops going in that range. So I think I'll probably wait and try to get the end of that group rather than being the first one to jump at the top. But that's where I would probably lean with that.
Sorry, got a kiss from my son.
No, that we just brought some love in.
Family show.
Yeah,
that's right.
Made it more wholesome.
There you go.
All right. My next player we'll talk about for downside. I'm going to be really quick with it because I want to move on here. Justin Turner, 2 years, just under $22 million with the Red Sox. 278, 350, 438 line with 13 homers and 81 RBIs in 128 games. He's going to a lineup that has so many holes in it right now, a lot less protection around him. His power has already been going down. It's been sapping year after year. Less games going to be in Coors Field. He's going to be just first base in DH only now. I just don't see the appeal in Justin Turner really anymore, to be honest with you. Obviously, before the Dodgers, he was nothing. He's with the Dodgers. He's great. I'm just skeptical. I'm not saying he's going to revert back to being nothing, but right now, over the last 2 weeks, he's going, I pick 266. Gene Segura, who just signed with the Marlins, goes right before and plays second base. Ezekiel Tovar, I think, is an interesting shortstop prospect there. I just don't think I'm interested in Justin Turner this year. If he goes on and has an amazing season, it won't be on my team.
Yep.
All right. Let's go around the horn, do a quick version of our last player here. Sam, go ahead and start it off.
All right, let's see how quick I can be. Joey Gallo, signing with the Twins. He is a true 3-outcome player. He either hits home runs, strikes out, or walks. That's really all he does. But he hasn't been the player that he was with Texas in the late teens. And that's because he can't hit 4-seam fastballs and sinkers. If you go to his StatCast page, it's embarrassing how terrible he has been against those two pitches. And so he either can't see them and needs to get on some LASIK, or he can't catch them, which means he's old and he needs to change his approach. And I don't see that happening in Minnesota. Maybe I could be wrong, but they're not a development and resurrection organization that I'm used to seeing old players going there and becoming better versions of themselves. Had he signed with the San Francisco Giants, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Had he signed with Tampa Bay, had he signed with Houston, somewhere where it's like, oh, they really get the most out of their players, this could be fun. I'd really like to see what Joey Gallo, a fixed Joey Gallo, can do without the shift. But I don't, at pick 360, in most drafts, I'd much rather take a flyer on somebody else, and we could go into the who's who of who's around there, but it'll be probably anybody but Gallo for me. So
Yeah, Joey Gallo could care less about having him on my team. You're hoping for power, and it's not always the case if he can't find the ball at the plate. So,
Right.
I'm with it. Elsie, last one. Defrozen? He's frozen. That was a stare that would scare anybody.
You guys see me?
Like a child cry.
Am I back? You guys got me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
son's crying in the corner, actually. So
Listen, I ain't even there. Y'all even know how intimidating I am in person. I am
I know.
very scary in person. All right. I want to talk about Yoshida. Masashida Yoshida, I think his name is. New signing for the Red Sox. He's got a very good profile. He's sees the ball well, has a very good walk rate, very low strikeout rate. Looking to be batting at the top of that Boston lineup, at least projected to. And with a pick average ADP around 300 with a high of 190, right around pick 300, I think that's a fantastic value. If he starts creeping up, I think he could creep up a little bit and still be a good value for you.
All right. I like it. Doc, last one.
Michael Brantley. He's a great hitter. He's injury prone. Played 64 games last year. And my issue with him re-signing with the Astros is I think they have World Series aspirations. So they'll make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. They'll give him maintenance days. They won't have him play, full series. They have him right now as DH on roster resource. So they don't even have him hitting in the field. They have Jose Abreu at first. And if they're having him start out the year at DH, I don't trust that. Great hitter, but I think he's going to be someone that's part-time. And in a best ball, I think you draft him. But in any sort of league where you have transactions, I wouldn't.
The only thing I'll argue is, could he be really much more of a faller than last year? I feel like last year was pretty much rock bottom at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. A shoulder injury like that, I feel like zaps whatever power he had.
He's going at pick 602.
Oh, I saw a 368 the last 2 weeks.
No, over the last 2 weeks, he's going pick 602.
at 600, that's pretty nice.
Okay, I'll retract it if it's at 600.
Yeah. All right, then. Yeah, he's only drafted by 10 teams because they didn't have all the other drafts kicking him. Marty, your last player is who?
It's going to be Chris Bassitt, only because his entire career, he's either pitched at Citi Field or he's pitched in Oakland. So two amazing pitchers parks. Now he's going over to the Blue Jays. Still a good amount of times he'll be in the AL East. So he'll be in Yankee Stadium. He'll be, obviously the Blue Jays, he'll be there. He'll be Tampa, which is actually more of a pitcher's park. So that doesn't really play into it. And Baltimore plays better now for pitchers. But that's the only reason, just because of the park. 32 years old. 33 years old. He does a really good job of limiting hard contact. So giving up, he only gave up 17 home runs last year and his career high is 20. So it's nothing too concerning, but it's nowhere near as good as Citi Field. I felt really good with Bassitt being there. But with that even being all said, he's going around Jesus Lazaro, Joe Ryan, everyone's boy Lucas Giolito, and Pablo Lopez. So he's still actually in a good spot. Mm-hmm. I think for ADP wise, but I think his numbers won't be as good as they were. Yeah,
he finished the year 3.42 ERA, 167 strikeouts, and 181 innings. Had a rough stretch in the beginning or times in the middle of the season. 4.63 ERA in May, 4.70 ERA in June, but then from then on, 3.20 in July, 1.62 in August, and a 2.93 in September. So really cleaned it up, and we saw. Obviously, Jose Barrios hasn't looked great, but we did see, I don't know why his name's escaping me, not Alek Manoah, Kevin Gausman go there. Okay. And we were very, much so we were all kind of scared of him going to the AL East, but he turned out to be very good still, and he should have been even better with all the metrics showing there was a lot of positive regression there, especially with his BABIP. So, that there is that appeal with Bassitt, but I can understand that the risk of the fall there too with him going to the AL East.
Nothing drastic, just a little bit more of a step back than what he's done the last few years.
Just a little bit of a step back. What do you think you're doing there? You limiting hard contact?
What do you think was going to happen here today, boys?
Last guy tonight, Michael Conforto. 2 years, $36 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. From 2017 to 2020, that's 467 games. He had 97 home runs, struck out 24.4% of the time, and a 12.7% walk rate, and had a line of 265, 369, 495. In 2021, he only hit 14 homers in 125 games after hitting 27 or more in each of the previous 3 seasons, hit 232. As I mentioned before, San Francisco's the 3rd worst ballpark for hitters in terms of home runs. He's coming off a year where he didn't play the entire year because of a shoulder injury, which you're telling me I have to feel confident he's going to come back and that power is going to be there. And it's not like he's free either. Right now, I believe he's going like 230. Let me see. He's going, there we go. He's going 233. So he's going right before Tristan Casas. Jock Peterson is there. If you believe in that. Esteury Ruiz, if you're going for steals. Randall Grichuk. Andrew Benintendi is the outfielder that goes right before him. I would rather take Andrew Benintendi, to be honest with you, than Michael Conforto after missing a year with a shoulder injury and going to
I think that's smart. I think
that's just where I feel about it personally. He'll
So
be a guy.
saying you're not comfortable drafting him?
Oh, wow, that was good. That was good.
Nicely played.
That's a go. Let's close this out here. Andrew Benintendi or Michael Conforto?
Benintendi.
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 Michael Conforto or Brandon Drury?
Brandon Drury.
Whoa!
You hush your blaspheming lips, Doc.
Oh my God. Can I take a pass on both?
I would love some Michael Conforto in an OBP league. Let's just give him some flowers. He's absolutely incredible when we put some walks into the contacts.
I would have loved him for the Mariners. I would have loved if we had signed him this offseason. You know, in real life, I think he's phenomenal. So
we hope he comes back and he proves
no
me
Brandon
wrong.
Drury love on this show.
Nope. No chance.
No.
But I will say we got to give love to our guest, Sam. We're going to get ready to sign off here. But Sam, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight. It was a blast having you. We got through a lot of players and didn't go too crazy, just a little over an hour here. But please plug all where they can find your work, where our listeners can find you on Twitter and anything else you got going on.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. This was totally a blast for me. So learned a ton about May. So thank you, Marty, for the knowledge.
Well,
I'm ready to get smarter as I process that.
He also picked up cooking and baking recently. So, just the more you know.
You can find me on the Twitter at SamFBB1. I write Dynasty content at the Dynasty Guru. And I got I do a podcast called Peace Love Baseball, where I interview people and we just talk about baseball. It has not a lot to do about fantasy. So those are the places that you can find me. And yeah.
All right. Make sure you find Sam on Twitter. Make sure you follow all his great work. Get a great follow, and he's got great stuff coming that you guys need to make sure you're checking out. For LC, though, for Doc, for Marty Party, I'm D Mendy. We're going to make like a bread truck, and we're going to haul these buns. Oh, we get the dog at the end. Yes. Stay for the dog.
One of the 4. I got 4 of them. I'm not lifting them all up.
We're going to make like a bread truck. We're going to haul these buns. We'll catch you guys in the next one.